8th, 2017 regular board meeting of the Pullman School District. And we will begin, as we always do, with a flag salute. I'll ask Superintendent Maxwell to lead us tonight.
All right, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes to the agenda this evening.
Okay.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
I will second.
Okay, I'll just add as a discussion, under executive or closed session, I would like to switch the order of those things so that the superintendent evaluation is last, and we'll have Bob leave for that, and we'll discuss that as a board. That's my only suggestion. That works.
I move as amended.
Okay.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one is opposed. The agenda is approved. Next, we have reports, correspondence, and program, beginning with board reports, and I'll begin down with Director Weed.
Well, I don't know if you all get the legislative updates from Jessica Varvis at WASDA, but there's some movement. Hopefully, in the third extra session, they'll end it, but who knows? But
Actually, there was a bulletin a few minutes ago from Ansley saying that there's a deal. There's a deal.
Well, funny how that works, just in the nick of time. But, okay, well, some of the things were education funding policy issues, overall funding model, salary allocation model, levy reform, locally funded salaries, and things like that. So, well, if it's ended, I'll have a better report next time on what the heck they've done to us.
Good.
So, right now, we'll leave it da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Director Everman.
No report this evening.
All right. Director Johansson.
Just one report, and well, two. One so that it gets on air, that well-known local author, regional author, Sherman Alexie is going to present at the Hartung Theater on August 4th at 7:30, and earlier in the day at Book People. I'm not doing that particularly to advertise him per se for book sales, but the curriculum committee is considering using one of his novels or memoirs that blend fact and fiction as one of the supplementary readings in one of the high school English classes. So it might be that that's already come before the board for acceptance by August, but I don't know what the schedule would be, so that is of interest. And also, I have asked Shannon to forward a detailed, it's in 8 pages, detail of nonpartisan, just exactly what the effects would possibly be on healthcare in the state of Washington under either the House or the Senate bill, but the focus is on the Medicaid reductions, which of course is interest to us in the numbers of kids and the funding that comes actually to the district through Medicaid in some cases for kids that have an abundance of special needs, and that is threatened. So.
Okay, thank you. Director Kinzer?
No report this evening.
All right. I also have no report this evening, so let's turn it over to Superintendent Maxwell for the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. I'll just, earlier today, received kind of an update from our WASA legislative person, Marie Sullivan. And this was as of 10:23 this morning, but one of the things that they mentioned was that an agreement in principle has been reached.
Yes.
No real details on what that means. Negotiators continue to meet. They're taking a look at the levy rate revenue. There's talk about a possible increase in property tax, internet sales tax, and perhaps closing a loophole or two to decrease the local levy rate. So really, other than that, no real details to that. Capital budget negotiators still had not met, and this was at 10:23 this morning. There's some talk about Senate Bill 5858, which would eliminate pro-teach and pro-cert and add 100 clock hours for recertification every 5 years. That's still on the table. And school citing, the governor looks like he might be softening on the language on school citing, and that has to do with Growth Management Act, so of citing schools outside of that. On state assessments, House Bill 2224 passed the House 96-0 yesterday. That would eliminate the requirement to pass the biology test effective immediately and retroactively. A comprehensive science test requirement would then be for class of 2021. So stay tuned. There's a variety of things that will probably come fast and furious in the next couple of days, it sounds like. So. With construction update, PHS, we're really just finishing up on some landscaping, mainly some of the seeding of the soccer field up top, making sure that that's done properly. We're not quite getting the grass growth that we wanted. Changing out some plants that maybe didn't make it, and working on the repairing the roof of the concession stand, which was damaged this winter. So that's all taken care of by our construction company at their cost, not ours. So with that, I'm going to save Kamiak for Joe's report. And one of the things I did want to share is I know some of you were able to attend our end of the year extravaganza with the staff, and we showed a video, and I thought it would be nice to for the rest of the board members to kind of see.
If we need to turn the mics off real quick, they can hear.
Okay.
Get feedback. I got it.
Okay. Yeah, sounds up over here.
Jim and Susan, you turn your mic off?
Right. those. There we go. So again, that was a little video compilation of the year put together by Shannon. So thank you very much, Shannon. And staff, very staff contributed the photos. So we showed that at the end of the year with the staff, and really was a nice way to close out the year. So again, we'll put that on our website and have that available. So with that, we have our food service report from Sheba. You're on.
You're up. No, those items are later. Yeah. You might as well just stay there.
Well, hello, I'm Sheba. I'm the food service director here at the Pullman School District. I'm a little unsure of what my report is actually supposed to be. I've had a couple of agenda items on the agenda to talk about, so
If you want, you can just give us an overview of this year.
Okay.
A brief overview if you'd like.
I can do that.
Okay.
One thing that I wanted to tell you, which I was going to mention, is this year in our 180 days, we served 206,301 lunches between our 5 schools, and we served 65,467 breakfasts, so all without really any real major glitches this year. That's a lot of food coming out of 5 kitchens, and very successfully done by a lot of very hardworking staff members. Some of the positive things that happened this year, we hired 4 new people, 2 of which were head cooks for 2 of our schools. At the high school level, we hired a man, and he has been really, really good at creating some scratch recipes. He's not afraid to do that. He's really enjoying that. He's putting out, at least maybe 1 a week and seeing what the kids like, and then revisiting it again, because sometimes they have to taste it first, and then they're going to come back and get it again the next time. And so that was a very positive thing that's happened with us. Another thing is that we receive commodity dollars through the USDA because we're part of the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program. Our allotment this year was about $82,000, and of that, we participated in 2 different fresh fruit and vegetable programs. One of them is a pilot program that's Washington State was selected for. This is, I think, their 2nd year. We allocated between the Department of Defense, which is another way that we can use our entitlement dollars and get fresh fruits and vegetables. We spent $26,000 of that money on fresh fruits and vegetables, which is pretty major given that we hadn't participated in that. We did a little bit last year. We dabbled in it, trying to figure out what it was. And this year we were very successful at it. So at least twice a week we'd have deliveries from 2 different companies, and it's all regional, nothing from Mexico, or anywhere else. So there's that. It's pretty much your basic food that comes from California, Washington, Oregon, and it was instrumental in putting out a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables each day. So we pretty much made sure that each kitchen had at least 2 fresh fruits and vegetables each day. And then we also have canned food that comes from the USDA, so we would incorporate that. That's sometimes a lot easier to use on a day such as a Monday when we don't want fresh fruits and vegetables sitting through the weekend. So we'll typically serve the heartier ones on Monday, and then we'll serve also canned food. So that's been, I think, a very positive thing for us this year. The more scratch cooking at the high school and the use of the entitlement dollars. We've had quite a few wellness meetings where we've talked about a lot of different things improving our programs, and we we did not have an audit year this year, and we won't have one next year, but next year we'll be really focusing on making sure we're making sure all the improvements are ready for that audit year, because that's a really big deal. And then also just that everybody's well-trained and continue to grow the resources that everybody needs for scratch cooking. We're going to just start doing a little bit more variety. This was kind of a year of training new staff members, and that takes a little time without throwing them into too many new items. So I guess if anybody has any questions, that's pretty much what I can come up with on the fly.
I would ask, have you determined where the culinary club is headed next year?
I haven't fully committed to the culinary club yet, and I haven't met with Joe Astorino, who's my co-partner in that, but we're definitely not going to let it die. So if we don't find somebody who wants to step up and take over, we'll probably both be doing it. I really believe Joe will be still doing it as part of the Community Action Center grant money that they receive for that club, which we did. They pay Joe to come to the club basically, and they pay his salary for participating in that through grant money. As far as I'm concerned, I definitely want to do it. It takes a lot of time for me, but it's not something that we're going to let go, because it's been very successful. And also we have our school gardens out at Lincoln right now, and the Boy Scouts are taking over this summer, so they're watering and taking care of that. So in the fall when we come back, we'll have, it won't be a lot, but we'll have some fresh produce out of the garden for the students in the cafeteria to sample, and we can do some taste testings and just encourage them in that way. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheba.
Sure.
All right, should we move on to the visitors section? This part of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or a member of a group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their information. The board will listen and may offer clarification, but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. Please keep your comments civil and respectful, and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And I have one person signed up to speak before the board tonight, Betsy Wilson.
I feel privileged to be the one person who's timed tonight. I assume no one else will be timed in their comments tonight, so thanks for giving me that opportunity. Okay, well, tonight what I'd like to do is to ask a question, and I know that you cannot answer it necessarily directly. However, the question is regarding the leave of Michael Church. As far as I know, he's been on leave for over 6 months now, and there has been no resolution to that particular, to his situation. And so I'm kind of confused about why it would take so long, and I'm wondering when this issue will be dismissed. I would assume it would be dismissed if there was something that was a true issue or a true problem in his conduct, that would have been resolved long ago. After 6 months, it would appear that he has not, that nothing has been found to warrant his any further any disciplinary action toward him. So that's my question: is when will this his leave be dismissed so that he can get back to teaching? He loves to teach. He's a wonderful person. Many people have spoken in his support. And if you can answer that at the next board meeting, I will be here. That's
Okay.
it.
All right.
Thank you.
You could turn off the timer now, I'm done.
Yeah, if I can figure out how to, yes. Would anyone else like to address the board at this time? Okay. I'm just going to make it silent. It's going to do its thing. All right. Next, did you want to offer any clarification at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right. Next, we have our consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, personnel reports, warrants, new ASB clubs, transfer requests, overnight field trip request, ASB fundraiser, and records destruction. I would entertain a motion regarding...
I would move that we approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Next, we move on to action items. The first action item tonight is the preschool services RFP, and to present that tonight, we have our Assistant Superintendent, Roberta Kramer.
Good evening. As you'll notice, there's more detail in the executive summary than there was in the one that was provided at the last board meeting for discussion, because we have reviewed proposals. So as I shared with you last time, and as Megan shared with you at the work session, every 3 years our district is required to request proposals for early childhood special education services. These services are lumped, I guess, into two groups by age, birth through 2, and then ages 3 through 5, or 3 until kiddos get to kindergarten. We received one proposal for birth through 2 age services from Boost Collaborative. Boost Collaborative is a long-standing partner with our school district to provide these kinds of services to children and their families. We received one proposal for preschool services, ages 3 through 5, from Community Child Care Center that is located on this campus. And again, we have worked with CCCC collaboratively for several years. And so I would ask that you approve those 2 agencies to provide those services from birth through age 5 or up until kindergarten.
Not directly to the to the question of the contracts, but are the numbers of students to be served in both programs trending anyway?
There's some variability, and it from what, and Bob probably knows more accurately than I do, but from what I have been able to observe and in my conversations with Megan, it really is dependent on, especially with our littlest guys who moves into the community. There's just a lot of variables to that. But it's typically been, I mean, there's some sort of a consistent number, but you just don't know. And a lot of it is dependent on our child find process, particularly for that ages 3 through 5.
3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 to 5. That's really where we pick up several children.
And I suppose the N is not significant to do a 5% or 10% or
Right.
to see any particular trend. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what will, if we approve these proposals, is that the same as the contract?
Then we will enter into negotiation of the
Okay.
contract.
Okay.
Yeah,
So this
and
is
we
just like
actually
the-
have those scheduled.
We're approving that you
Yeah.
proceed to a negotiation
Yes.
process?
Yeah, and then we will bring the contract, will then be a part of the board packet.
Okay.
I would so move just exactly what you said.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve these proposals from Boost Collaborative for birth through age 2 services and Community Child Care Center for the 3 through 5 services. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Superintendent Maxwell presenting on a resolution from the board.
Correct. So again, let me open this for you. So again, I presented this at our last meeting. We had some discussion on it. So this is a resolution 1617. Basically, this resolution was to ensure that if a COLA was passed after July 1, that COLA would be available for administrators. And one of the concerns was this line that's stricken, in no event shall the salaries or other compensation be reduced at such time of adjustment. So there was some concern about there, so that was been stricken from the resolution. It sounds like we may not even need this, but just in case, this was kind of a safety measure to the other bargaining groups. All receive COLAs automatically in their agreements and by state law, but administrators do not. And so this resolution is a resolution that WASA put together, and just about every district I know of is using it. So the only concern again was in case by some reason that the state gave us less money, this was a concern about if we had to reduce our compensation, and so that line was stricken. And that was the only concern from the last meeting.
I move approval of resolution 161710.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 161710. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution is approved. Next, we have Policy 2145, Suicide Prevention. Again, Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. Let me pull it up here. So again, part of our process is that we go through and as consistently and as regularly as possible is update our policies and procedures. So policy and procedure 2145, which is about suicide prevention, has been updated. Again, the major change in the first paragraph is just a little bit different wording, saying basically that the school district recognizes the seriousness of suicide and the efforts to be preventative. It outlines our prevention procedures that we utilize in the district and ensures that how we will provide support to students and staff if an incident were to occur. And we do have an established crisis team which can be activated in any time of need. And so the main three updates were there was, again, just recognizing the seriousness of it. It outlines our procedures, prevention procedures that is, and then if something was to occur, we do have an established crisis team.
Okay.
One of the particular things I liked about the policy, despite the necessity of it, was the designation of staff by training and experience rather than named positions. And I think that's really wise, because not everybody, even if they're trained, necessarily is going to be a good intervention person.
Correct. And so
I'm glad that since I wasn't there at the last meeting and did not comment on it, I wanted to comment on that in a positive way.
I move approval of policy 2145, suicide prevention.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 2145 suicide prevention. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those policy changes have been approved. Next, we move on to policy 4210, regulation of dangerous weapons on school premises. Dr. Maxwell again.
Yes, thank you. So again, this is one of our existing policies, and this has been updated to align with WASDA sample policy, which was updated this past year. There are two major changes to note. One is a new section called dangerous weapons, and basically this is a list of weapons. Some have been on this list previously, some are new to the list, but anyway, from dangerous weapons, this is a new section and basically just defines what a dangerous weapon is. There's also a new section that has been added, which is this next section up top, reporting dangerous weapons. So again, it explains the reporting process if a dangerous weapon is located on school premises. The rest of this changes that are noted here are really just a little bit of reorganization of highlighting the headings for personal protection spray and exception to state law and policy, and then just a clarifying about the activity there. But the rest of it is our current language. So it's just some straightening out, but the major is, again, adding the reporting process and listing exactly what a dangerous weapon is.
How do they handle the FFA's trap shooting activities that they have? Is that isn't approved?
That's an approved sporting event, and it's also held off school premises.
Okay.
So weapons are never brought onto school premises, ammunition's never brought on school premises.
But I thought anywhere a school event was occurring is a school premises.
It is, but since it's a sanctioned sporting event, it doesn't apply, from my understanding. But that's a great question.
Do we currently have groups participating?
Yes,
we do.
Okay.
We do have a trap shooting team.
Is there any concern that we should?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's very well managed and chaperoned.
No, I was just wondering that any concern that we should delay making these changes until we investigate whether it's okay.
And our overall insurance carrier is aware of that we have students in terms of
correct
liability and so on participating. So.
Okay.
I just didn't see that referenced here, and so I thought I'd bring it up.
It's definitely something I can look into if you'd like. So.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead, Joe.
Please.
One of the requirements with the FFA trap shooting, and this is a requirement from the organization, is that the guns are not transported in school vehicles.
Okay.
They have to be transported by a third party.
Correct.
I believe the ammunition has to be kept in a separate part of the vehicle. So the students do not handle the weapons at all until they get to the event. So they're not transported on school vehicles.
Okay.
And I'll just add, because I have attended some of our trap shooting events, and they're very structured, very organized, very stringent safety rules. If you violate the rules, you're done. So, but they're very, very, on the shooting range, they're very conscious of the safety.
I don't think any of us were questioning that. I just personally wouldn't want to create a problem for
the team.
The participants by enacting something in policy that could put them in a bind.
Well, I can definitely have it reviewed.
You probably could include something about a school-sanctioned
Event.
thing.
I can look into it.
There's potential for squirreliness, and you want to protect those kids.
Okay, so would we,
I would suggest that we pass the policy as it is, as proposed, and if necessary, upon further research, an amendment
do
can
that.
be offered
Okay.
at our next board meeting with a 2-reading sequence, which is our usual sequence, to add something if both our insurance carrier or somebody from FFA suggests that
yeah,
something other than the policy is necessary.
that
You could
sounds
also
reasonable.
Put it in procedure.
That's true too.
That's true. We
Yeah.
could put it, and I'll follow through and ask our
Okay.
legal counsel.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
Then
you.
I will move that we approve, made this evening, the policy 4210, regulation of dangerous weapons on school property.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 4210, regulation of dangerous weapons on school premises. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, changes to policy 4210 are approved. Next, we have policy 4215, use of tobacco and nicotine products and delivery devices. Again, Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you very much. So I went over this last time, and a very minor change, but I'll bring it to your attention again. Basically, it just specifically designs that this applies to all district buildings, grounds, and district-owned vehicles, and within 500 feet of school. So, so it's just really a clarification of tobacco and nicotine substances. It really just gets more specific about all district buildings, grounds, district-owned vehicles, and within 500 feet of a school. And possession by or distribution of tobacco products by minors is prohibited. That's the underlined added language. Oddly enough, at the district office, we had a construction crew that was there and had this came to our attention. So it was perfect timing for this policy tonight. So we had. It wasn't our crew. It was a crew working on the park and rec side of the building. But
It's all their fault.
it's our property, our building, and definitely within 500 feet. So, so again, this just clarifies. We didn't have vehicles, I believe, in the old language. So.
Interesting mentioning at the district office, so they'd have to be within 500 feet of your half of the building.
Correct.
Okay.
And they were definitely within 500 feet. So.
All right.
I move approval of the revisions on policy 4215, use of tobacco and nicotine products and delivery devices.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 4215. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those revisions are approved. And finally, policy 5001, hiring of retired school employees. Again, Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. So again, just keeping alignment with the latest updates with WASDA sample policies. This just allows, again, some specific regarding our ability to possibly hire retired teachers back to help us out in a time of shortage of employees. And so it kind of also outlines our district responsibilities to that process. So really this is just some additional language and updates. You can see the last one was 2007, it's referenced here. But this would give us a little more flexibility to be able to hire retired certificated staff.
Okay. Any questions for Superintendent Maxwell on this item?
Kind of a procedural one, Bob, in terms, do we maintain a list of retired teachers that are in the Pullman area?
We don't maintain an exact list. We do, when they exit, we do kind of an exit survey form that we ask them to fill out and provide to Dagny, so then she can keep a list of folks, and also to see if they might be interested in substituting.
Right.
This would allow us to do more long-term substitute positions. So we always talk to them before they head out the door if they're retiring and say, are you staying in town? Would you be interested in subbing? So.
Any additional questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I also move.
Second?
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 5001, hiring of retired school employees. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one is opposed. Those revisions are approved. Next, we move on to our discussion items. The first discussion item this evening is the Kamiak Elementary School approval of bid, and for this we have our Executive Director of Operations, Joe Thornton.
Joe, which would you like open first?
Why don't you pull up the board summary first? So the real exciting news is we have a bid for Kamiak. The really, really exciting news is it came in under what we were estimating, or what Design West was estimating. So here's the executive summary. We're asking you to consider a bid from Walker Construction for a total cost of, including tax, Washington State sales tax, of $20,481,000. If you recall, the estimator was saying it was going to come in about $22,300. Including tax, so we're about 1.8 under, and the happiest person in the room that day was, of course, Diane Hodge. So, Bob, if you can scroll down to the next page is the memo from Design West recommending that we accept this bid. Walker Construction is a contractor based out of Spokane that has done a lot of work with Design West. CSG, our construction consultants, are very familiar with their work. They do very good work. We had all 5 good contractors in the equation. So this is the letter recommendation from Ned Warnick from Design West, saying that he's recommending we accept this bid. And Bob, if you can scroll down to the 3rd page, this is the breakdown, and this is in your board packet of the
jump back out
of the 5 bids. The way the process worked is they had to present a base bid. And then we sat on those for an hour, didn't open them, and an hour later they had to submit I think it's 10 or 11 alternates.
I think it was 12 alternates.
12 alternates. And part of that is to make sure that we're getting a competitive price, like with the HVAC controlling. There were 2 different systems identified, so we wanted to make sure we got competitive bids from both people. The minute you start identifying one product, the price tends to go up. So this is a breakdown of all those. Most of the contractors were pretty close on a lot of things, but Walker ended up being the lowest bidder, and we're going to make that suggestion that we accept their bid.
So does this mean we can afford the standing seam metal roof?
This does mean that we are going to accept. We're going to recommend we accept all but 2 of the bids. One of them is an either or. So I think bid.
This is the carpet, Joe, that was not accepted.
All right. This is $17,000 for a quote-unquote upgrade on carpet that the architect doesn't really feel is an upgrade. So their recommendation is don't bother. They felt with the vinyl flooring, yes, the upgrade was going to be worth it. And the other bid alternate, we were either going to be accepting 7 or 8, but not both. So this does include, in fact, a real 50-year roof. Not a pretend 50-year roof.
Pretend 50-year roof.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Here. I mean, the old here.
Yeah. Bob, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Design West does not feel as if we need to take this to an action item tonight. We can sit on this for 2 weeks.
They felt we could sit on it for 2 weeks if it really wouldn't make a difference in our ability to launch into construction right away or not, so.
Because Walker would not intend to be starting within 2 weeks.
They're not gonna start within 2 weeks,
Okay.
they'd start in August.
I guess I would ask are we anticipating 2 board meetings in July? Or are we just anticipating one at the end?
That's a great question, Joe, and I don't know the answer yet.
We have a retreat on the 12th.
Yeah, there may only be
Usually
one
we only have one board
meeting in
We
July.
may only have one meeting,
Which would be towards the end.
but I think even if we had to wait out till the end of July, I
Well-
still think we'd be okay.
The, the workshop is, the forward is an official meeting, public meeting.
We could do it then,
We could put it on the
Put it on the
agenda.
agenda, if you want.
I would be more comfortable with that than waiting.
I don't know if I have a problem waiting until the second week of July. I'm not sure I want to wait till the end of July.
Yeah.
They might get a little nervous.
They might get a little nervous. What's the holdup?
I'm not too nervous, but they might get nervous, and then I would be nervous.
Yes, and when they get nervous, we get nervous.
Yes.
I have
If it's okay to do it in July, then.
question.
Yeah.
Or you
The-
can vote on it now if you want.
Okay.
The 10 out of the 12 alternates, so to speak, those are all, and we're picking, as you outlined, 10 of the 12.
Correct.
Correct.
That is included in the full bid
Correct,
price? Or
correct.
are they in the 1.8?
Yeah, if you could, Bob, if you can scroll
Yeah, let
down
me
to
show you
the
the-
very bottom of that page.
If you look at the top line right here, this is the base bid.
Okay,
Everything below that is an alternate. So you can see the base bids were very, very close, relatively close. Anywhere from
They're all within 9%.
9%.
And the lowest 3 were within 1%.
And if this was a really tight group of
You
estimates.
can tell people have it down to a science now.
So then you can see right here, Carl, in this yellow box, the top is the base bid. The next number is the total of the alternates, and that gives you your total price.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
What is the minus 100,000 from Walker? It was a credit for doing it.
Playground.
Strategy.
Or what
Strat-
was- Playfield.
Playground equipment,
Sports
like,
equipment.
sports equipment, like basketball hoops and that type of stuff.
They're just throwing that in?
Well, here's probably I'm going to hypothesize what happened. They submitted their bid at 3 o'clock. Between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, they went back, they saw that there were 4 other bidders, they went back and looked at their numbers. They wanted to be really competitive, so a way to be really competitive, they can't go back and change their base bid,
Yep.
but they can go back and change their alternates, which don't have to be turned in until 4 o'clock. So to make themselves super competitive, they decided to give a $110,000 credit for that. And if you look at the difference, that's not $110,000, that's $110 plus what everybody else was bidding. So the other lowest bid, I think, might have been Garco at 72. Well, that's a $180,000 swing.
Wow.
Looks like it worked. Yep,
So it's a strategy.
yeah.
To belay any more nervousness, I would move that we move this to an action item tonight.
Okay, is there a second?
I would second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we move this to an action item tonight. Is there additional discussion on that? I would like to open it up if any member of the public who's here wants to comment on this. They could come to the board and address the board, just so we have an opportunity to hear public comment if there is any. I don't see anyone rushing to the podium, okay? I don't imagine that we would receive much public comment on something like this. We're pretty much legally obligated, I think, to take the
Very
lowest
few
bid.
things have been
Yeah,
I think
more
the
vetted than this already.
fact that it came in under bid, under our budget, and the letter from Design West, and the fact that they were super anxious to give us the playground equipment.
I do think it is better to have this decision made in a more public venue than in our retreat, even though that would be legal. So I'm very receptive to the idea of moving this to an action item tonight. So with that, it's been moved and seconded that we move this to an action item tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this item is now an action item, and so I would now entertain a motion regarding the construction bid itself.
I would move approval of the Kamiak Elementary approval bid.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the bid from Walker Construction for the construction of Kamiak Elementary School. Any further discussion of that?
Just that there are other firms that we've successfully worked with, and I'm just excited that we got this low a bid, and the fact that Leidig and Garco were also involved. And the closeness of the bidding is evidence of us getting at true costs. I'm always suspicious when we get maybe 10% lower is the low bid. And anyway.
Yeah.
And I think the what I'm hearing is contractors are saying we're a great client to work with. And that's positive.
Well, that's all on you, Joe.
That's not, no, that's a, no, because I had nothing to do with the Lincoln Middle School, which was Leidig. That was a long time ago. That was before I was born, Susan.
No. Even though I'm on restricted time, I will have to comment negatively.
Okay. Well, on that note of levity, it has been moved and seconded that we accept the bid from Walker Construction for the construction of Kamiak Elementary School. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Go for
That
it.
is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next discussion item is Resolution 161711, and again, Joe, that is you.
Almost exciting as building a new school is surplus items. This is the time of year where we have a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff was left over from the clean out of the math science building last December. A lot of it is stuff that we're accumulating this time of year as people find stuff that they no longer need, retired textbooks, giant TVs on carts that nobody uses anymore because everyone's using LCD projectors. So it's time to clean out the maintenance shop and get rid of this stuff. So I need board action to approve that. If possible, it'd be great if this can be an action item tonight, because it's a long, slow process. I have to advertise in the paper for 2 weeks. I have to give school districts an opportunity to come look at the stuff, wait another 2 weeks before I open it up to the public. So it's still a month before we can start getting rid of stuff. So if we can move this along, that would be wonderful.
That way we can finalize it before the start of the next school
Yeah,
year.
it'd be nice
Before
to finish cleaning house.
Yeah, before we have to put the snow plows back on.
All right, you make a compelling case for moving this to an action item. Would someone?
I would move that we move Resolution 161711, declaration of surplus property, to an action item tonight.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded twice that we move this to an action item this evening.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one is opposed. It is now an action item.
I would move approval of Resolution 161711, declaration of surplus property.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 161711, declaration of surplus property. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that resolution carries. Okay, next we have
Is that resolution
11, 16, 17,
is it
11.
in the packet in prep?
I don't know,
or
I haven't looked at it. We may not have a resolution here to sign.
I didn't see.
Okay, well, we could sign it at our retreat.
Yeah.
It has been officially approved, so.
It has been approved.
Yep.
That's right. Okay. So next, we again have our Executive Director of Operations, Joe Thornton, presenting on the topic, oh no, or is it?
Well, I'm going to introduce Sheba.
Oh, okay.
And while Sheba's walking up here, I just want to mention quickly that two of the departments I represent, I supervise, are represented here today. Sheba with Nutrition Services and Tammy with Transportation. And as Sheba mentioned a little while ago, so much of what they do is invisible and so much of what they do is seamless. If you think about the numbers, As Sheba said, we served over 250,000 meals to students this year. Transportation, Tammy just gave me the number. Transportation transported students for over 200,000 miles, safely, by the way. A lot of the work that these departments done is before anybody else is in the schools. It's while it's still dark, it's still while the roads are covered with snow and ice, and they're really very much the unsung heroes. But transportation, a lot of those kids without that transportation, they wouldn't be here at school. A lot of those kids without nutrition services, if they were hungry when they class, they wouldn't be prepared to learn. So these are very invisible but integral parts to what we have to do. She was going to talk about some of the work she's doing with the goals for the Wellness Committee, and it's very innovative. And I know she'd like to integrate a lot more scratch-based cooking and stuff like that, but time and resources are a factor for that. And if you ever stop and if you have an opportunity to come and look at one of the kitchens while they're preparing meals, it's nonstop. So that's a challenge for us as we try to integrate some of that scratch cooking that's going to take more time. How do we do that and still balance the budget? And then I want to also add with Sheba that the work she did this year with the Nutrition Club at Lincoln Middle School was all on her own. That wasn't part of her job. It's just something that she's very passionate about. It's hard for her to have that on the plate, but I know she'd like to try to keep it going. We will keep it going. Maybe with her more of an advisor from afar, but we will keep that going. So with that, you'll hear from Sheba a lot this summer. This, food, meal prices, new dairy bid, and commodities bid. This is the time of year for meals. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Very kind.
That was a very nice introduction.
Yeah. So this is something that we've been working on in our Wellness Committee. When we had our recent review last year in 2015 and 16, our federal audit, one of the corrective actions that we received was that we needed to add some measurable goals to our wellness policy. So 2 of our committee members were very gracious and wrote up these goals and worked on them, one of which is Allison, and then another board member, our wellness committee, Trevor Bonds. They worked on these together and brought these before the wellness committee recently, and they were approved by the wellness committee as goals that we're wanting to work on and measurable goals. And the truth is, a lot of them are already in play by the time we got these approved, because we only meet every 3 months or so. One of the goals that we would like to add is to improve the quality of school food by emphasizing healthy, fresh foods, more cooked on site from scratch, locally or regionally sourced, which is something we're definitely working toward, presented attractively and sustainably, meaning we're using less plastic and disposables in our schools the very best we can. The second goal would be to implement a school pantry program to promote student nutrition during times when school food is not available. This provides staples to families in need and develop discrete methods of distribution. We have 2 pantries already in play, and I believe somebody gave a report on that to the board not too long ago, so I won't go too far into that, but those are already in action. They've been very successful and are growing, and the other schools will learn from those and follow suit as well as people step up to do that. Support walking and biking to school through collaboration with the City of Pullman to develop safe routes and path networks, parent education and outreach, and I believe that was mentioned that those things are already in.
Definitely, Joe has been collaborating with City of Pullman. I'm not sure we've done the parent education outreach component.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something we can be working on.
I had one question for both of you that participated. Until you mentioned plastic and so on, I wondered about the idea of sustainably being linked with presentation, and wondered about, now I understand that, about the locally or regionally sourced from operations that are sustainable practices and so on, whether that same word might be added to the goal around sourcing and where the food comes from.
That, I don't know how much we could measure how sustainable somebody's food production, that might be beyond our I mean,
I
because
could-
Sheba knows where she gets
I
the
could
food
think some
from.
of the, if we were to start cooking chicken, for instance, and there are definitely sources that are, use practices that are more sustainable in terms of how much waste is generated and so on. So if you already discussed it and decided not to have that as a factor, then I'm with it. I mean, I'm fine. But
We didn't discuss that particular nuance of it. We were kind of focused on actually creating some goals, which the department hadn't had before, that were measurable and kind of were on track with the community's expectations, that were not like over the top. You know, we didn't say it needs to be organic or something like that. We were more focused on having more of a local relationship with the food. And Sheba has actually met with the Maters and people like that and brought in the garbanzos and...
I was just commenting, and there'll be other
Yeah.
meetings, and there can always be revisions if it's a valid point.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of this is that to be compliant with the policy, the goals actually would be promoted on a food services component of the website, and they would be goals that would be sort of guiding
Wonderful.
wellness in the district for maybe a period of about 3 years until the next audit cycle, maybe. So I thought there would be room for improvement in these areas, and
I'm comfortable
I like
with
your
that
idea.
discussion.
I mean, it's something for us to talk about. We do need, you know, we review these and look at them yearly, and so I wrote a little note to myself to think about that some more.
Okay.
Thanks.
The
yeah.
other question is, how are you going to convince parents that it's okay for their kids to walk to school?
That's something the committee itself hasn't discussed, but that is something the district really needs to address is,
Well, some parents just won't.
but how much have we done to do that convincing? You know, it would mean
I don't know if they
PTA.
take it as a
it would-
safety, it's a safety thing, I think, for most of them. They don't want them, their kid, especially the elementary.
But Susan, what have we done to encourage, what have we done in terms of parent education and outreach?
I don't know, other than the fact that I'm sure probably most of those parents
Yeah.
did walk to school because.
Instead of reading a book at school, we need to walk to school. The board,
Oh,
we can do that. We can walk to our neighbor's school.
yeah.
I mean, we can start doing those kind of emotional things. So,
They can do it, they can do it. I guess if this old bride
No,
can
if
make
we
it down
can-
the
we can
path,
do it,
yeah,
they
they can do it. Great. So
I'm
they don't have
sorry.
to walk home, it's uphill home.
It's both ways, Susan.
Yeah.
you brought it up.
No, I know, it's the safety issue of it, and everybody wants to make sure their precious little kid is at school, and
Perception.
Well, I'll also add, though, that we have done some parent education, some advertising for especially Bike to School Day. So particularly at LMS,
yeah,
when
that was,
the police department partnered
Great.
with us on that, and extra cones. Officer Patrick was out there. I know Sunnyside has done some extensive conversations with their community and PTA regarding both walking and biking. And if you've ever been there before or after school, it's
I think it's more dangerous having the
there's a
parents, the little kids running around, all those parents trying to pick the
Yep.
kids up.
And for some parents, I think it may be definitely an issue of safety, but I think also it's convenience of getting their children there before or after school, or to pick them up because of various calendar reasons and practices and different things. So, but it's definitely, we have done some parent education, but definitely I think that's an area we could take a look at.
I don't know if you develop safe pathways or, where
That's what we're talking about
monitored
doing.
and-
Yeah.
that sort of thing, but.
There are walking school buses, there are all kinds of different ways to
Mhm.
safely get kids using,
But you just, what's the point of neighborhood schools if,
yeah. And there have been shown to be a lot of cognitive benefits and psychological benefits associated with walking rather than
Sure,
just
my
being.
mom had me scared to death of the boogeyman that's going to come out of the bushes.
No, it gives kids a chance to focus on their day ahead or reflect on the day behind them and feet on the ground. There's all kinds of advantages. So we can do more getting the positive word out about the benefits of walking too.
And with the changes, with Kamiak coming, and with changes in neighborhood boundaries that feed the schools, and all of that is going to be under meaningful discussions and some of it high emotion discussions over the next couple of years. We can incorporate more into that planning of use of paths and so on, in conjunction with the cities doing with expansion of pathways and so on, and how that fits in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well done, Wellness Committee. I think this is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shiva.
Sure.
We're going
So,
to skip to E and then come back to D since she was on.
Oh, since she was already up there, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's keep you up there and we'll skip one item on the agenda. We'll go down to school meal prices.
okay.
There you go, Sheba.
Okay, so each year, we have to evaluate our prices for meals. It's just a regulatory function. It's because every year, the USDA decides what sort of reimbursement they're going to pay for a free or reduced price meal. And when they do that, which they typically raise it a little bit, our reimbursement this year, which they call paid lunch equity, is $2.86. If we have a student who receives free meals, that's the reimbursement we receive from the federal government for that meal. So what they expect is that when a student who is a paid student, they expect it to be weighted out amongst the population of students that they would be paying equally as much. That's the whole reason why they require us to raise this price. At the same time, they cap it at 10 cents. So we typically raise our meal prices overall spread out a 10-cent increase throughout for the next year. So after I calculated this, they have a process you go through. I recommended that, well, in 2016 and 17, the price of the high school meal remained at $3 from the prior year. But due to the need to increase prices, I recommend that the high school price be raised by 25 cents for the 2017 and 18 school year. In addition, the price of an elementary school meal will be raised by 5 cents to $2.65 for next year, and then the meal price at Lincoln Middle School would remain the same. There's all kind of different ways to calculate this, and then you end up getting a few cents over when you try to add 5 cents to every school, so it gets a little tricky. So to stay at that 10-cent cap, that was what I calculated, because we had increased prices at the elementary and the middle school last year, and not at the high school. And also, we're just serving, high school students just are offered more choices, and they take more food. So I think it's justified to raise them to a quarter plus. If we did, there's other practical reasons. If we make it $3.20 and they bring money, then they're paying and they need change, and it creates a lot of nickels that we don't really want to. Typically, elementary kids don't bring a lot of change, so by increasing them to $2.65, their parents are typically writing a check or paying online. So that kind of helps with the high school cash issue. We have not raised breakfast prices in a while, and we didn't raise them last year. We're pretty low at $1.70. I recommend we raise the breakfast price at the elementary Lincoln School by 5 cents, and also that we raise the Pullman High School breakfast up to $2. And another part of that reason is because the price of food is obviously increasing, and also at the high school level, we're making a lot more food for breakfast. He's cooking a lot of items instead of just offering granola bars and things like that. He's making really nice breakfast sandwiches, and even though they're made from scratch, you think they're cheaper. It's not necessarily true. The ingredients aren't cheaper when you're putting together that, and you're also looking at higher labor costs because it takes time to do that. So that is the reason why I'd like to increase the breakfast price, and they don't have to be the same. We can keep the Lincoln and the elementary breakfast a little bit lower at $1.75. So that is what I'm asking for, to approve the 2017-18 meal prices as listed above. Okay.
Does anyone have questions for Shiva?
Very thorough proposal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Shiva. Sure. Okay, so next we'll circle back to item D with Assistant Superintendent Kramer presenting on the topic of novels for 11th grade English. Sorry, my stuff was in the way there.
It's fine, I'm here to present a novel concept. Haha. Wow. Okay, so as I shared both of these books with you, we like to bring books, certainly textbooks require approval, but also it's important for us to bring novels to, especially when they're required reading. And we had, Erin Willie came to Curriculum Advisory Committee this spring to ask us to consider 2 new novels. And in the course of that, we've discovered that we've got some work to do on our list. But that's aside. And those 2 books, The Things They Carried and The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, both represent contemporary literature, and as Erin shared, really from a student's perspective, they're engaging. And I think that we have to balance classic literature and other pieces that we insist that they have exposure to with those things that truly are interesting and engaging to them from the very beginning. And so that group, the CAC, comprised of staff and community members, vetted the books, and I required that they read them because I believe that we shouldn't bring a book to you that we have not read ourselves. And also then made those novels available to you. And so I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
They use it, and do they get some sort of basic classic
Yes.
exposure?
Yeah.
Do you have an anthology?
And I can't tell you what that is right off the top of my head.
No, but they do
Yeah.
use an anthology.
Yes.
So
Oh,
that
yeah.
you
They
don't
have
necessarily
access-
to read the whole thing. But
Right, and they have access to a range of literature. And the one piece with The Things They Carried is that one of the things Erin said is she didn't anticipate that they would read every short story in that novel, because it kind of gets to be a little repetitive. But she wants them exposed to text that they would then engage with.
I believe that was Pulitzer Prize winning. The Tim O'Brien one.
yeah, well, I just worry about it because so much of the classical education and that way literature seems to have gone by the wayside. So they get exposure to poetry.
Yes, I know that they do.
All right. You have a witness.
Well, yeah, I have one of those at ninth. Well, I had one at ninth grade, but I also know that that's a part of our curriculum in our high school English. Standards and curriculum are very well articulated and well designed in our district. I've been very pleased with what I've experienced. Yes.
Okay, good. There was a while there where they didn't have it.
Oh.
My question, Roberta, is not about these items, no, but kind of comprehensively, like, what is required for 11th grade English? And I hear, Susan, there's an anthology that they read.
And I don't
outside.
have them right here with me, but I'm happy to find that out. One of the things that we have discovered, and the reason that I'm bringing these now, is I'm trying to update the list, because we've had things on the list that are then no longer being used. Maybe they were more contemporary at the time that they were adopted, but students haven't continued to be interested, or they don't have the same value to the curriculum that they may have before. And so that's one of the processes that we're in the middle of, is trying to make it more up to date.
So there is a list of, larger than what is being used, of approved novels for 11th grade.
There you go. That's the summer AP reading list.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm familiar with that, but I just didn't know in terms of.
Yeah, and I have some of that, and then they've also identified the pieces of Shakespeare in which grade level those will be taught. Because I too believe that there are those pieces that students need to have exposure and interaction with. And even though I'm as old as I am, there is a piece, okay, I apologize. There is a piece to it that shapes us. And some of the struggle through those difficult pieces of text help to create real critical thinkers. And so I know our English department prepares kids well to do that.
But there are just so many allusions a lot in life to some of these, it's the best of times, worst of times. There's a lot of quotes that kids nowadays have no idea what the heck people are talking about. So,
I wasn't always sure in high school what they were talking about either, even though I might have been reading them.
There's quite an extensive list, Susan, so from 9th, 10th,
well, it's not
11th,
that,
12th.
it's just the exposure to. In an anthology, you don't have, it's not the entire Shakespeare play.
Right.
It's just, so a lot of the fun stuff is edited out, which I found out later in my college Shakespeare classes. But anyway, I think it's important that people know who these dudes are and the influence they've had on so much of our society. Okay, fine, thank you.
I'm prompted to do a little research on my own on why the Alexi one is classified. Its format is classified as a novel rather than a narrative or whatever. It'd be interesting. He's very approachable. If I can't find out, I'll ask him.
I do believe that I've read things that where he has said that he doesn't want it to be considered a memoir, and probably out of respect for, he's pretty upfront and descriptive.
About conversations that took place.
Yeah,
and so on. So I can see that, but just classic. It's certainly not a classic novel.
No,
I think more and more there's a lot of genre goes on in journalism and all kinds of fields where you can't even tell. And that's clever and interesting for a conversation too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I would look forward to any communication you may have with him.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. This concludes all of our discussion items for this evening. There are some informational items on the agenda. And next, if there are no objections, the board will recess into an executive or closed session where no action will be taken. We will discuss negotiations and property. How long will that take?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, and
But
then
I don't know how much A will be.
after that, we'll discuss the personnel superintendent evaluation. I would say another 5 minutes, probably 5 to 10 minutes. So, 10 minutes. Okay, so
So 15 total?
15 total minutes of executive
8-10.
session this evening, and as I said, no action will be taken.
And I also forgot to submit this in my superintendent's report just for your awareness. So.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Or go back to the day